So let's talk a little bit about some of the learning goals that we're going to discuss. First one is we're going to discuss a T table. And what we're going to talk to you about is how do you actually take your skills and match them to what the employer is looking for. We're also going to talk about the advantages of networking. And the truth of the matter is that the easiest way to get a job is still to this day through networking. We're also going to talk about understanding why and when to leave off of some of that experience and some of those qualifications. We're also going to really talk about how sometimes that's painful to do because, the wisdom that we have up to today, we paid a high price for. But I'm going to explain to you why you want to leave some of those qualifications off that you have if the company's not looking for it. We're also going to talk to you about being looked at as being overqualified and what does that mean? And then we're going to talk to you about keeping your momentum going. The truth is that looking for a job is a job. It's probably one of the worst jobs we've had. And in addition, it's enduring. So we're going to recognize that, validate it, and then talk about what to do about it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some good news. Okay. First off, before we get to the good news, I want to hear from you just with using just one word. Describe how your job search has been going so far. And I ask that you don't use any words that you wouldn't use in a professional interview. So, Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind turning your camera on and telling me what some people are writing. So the task is to write something in the chat describing in one word about how your job search has been going so far.
Many rejections, difficult,
Mm.
challenging, starting, frustrating, ghosted, slow,
Mm.
mostly frustrating and slow.
Okay, yeah, so you guys, very, very proud of you that you're being honest. And the truth is that that's part of this is looking for a job can get to be very frustrating. I want to point out to you that sometimes this doesn't have anything to do with age, even though we think it does. Okay, even though that's how we're perceiving it. So again, we're going to really drill down on this. I want to point out to you that Harvard Business Review now says employers find people to work, but has worked in our benefit. And how it has is that it has shown the employers that one, that we are reliable, dependable,
Lori,
flexible,
your
adaptable.
audio for some
Yes.
reason is breaking up.
Oh, okay. I wonder if I got something. Can you hear me better now? Or is it
Yeah, I can hear
still?
you.
I'll
Yeah,
try sit still. Maybe I
a
have
lot better.
something loose in my headset. This is a brand new headset, but if it does break up again, just go ahead and interrupt me, Jennifer, okay?
Of course.
Another thing that is great about the older generation, about us, is that um, instead of calling us the older generation, I'd like to call us seasoned workers. And the truth is that we have the potential to make the employer a lot of money because of our wisdom. And in turn, you'll make some money too. So you have every right to say that at the interview. You can say, the wisdom that I have, I paid a high price for. But in turn, I believe I can make you a lot of money. And in turn, I'll make some money too. Now, the thing is what I'm learning is that a lot of the younger generations are going in and saying stuff like, what does it pay? Um, they will leave a job for a quarter more an hour down the road. They don't take a hard look at benefits. They aren't taking a look at some of the other negotiation pieces that go along with our salary. And so the employers are putting a lot of time and energy and money into that group of people without them staying. And so really the money, the employers are looking at it like it's unfruitful. So what's changed? So what has changed since the last time you looked for work? Well, one of the things that is very, very important that has changed is that we now are matching our skills to the skills that are listed on the job description. So I remember years ago, I was taught to do one resume and then just send that out to everybody. We no longer do that. I want to encourage you to attend our resume class as well as our interview workshop. We will go through exactly what to say, how much to say, where do you start and where do you stop. When the employer is asking you questions, what do they want to hear? But I want to teach you today that you can use this in every job that you're applying for, is to make sure that on your resume, your skills match what the employer is looking for. I have had in the past, previous to working for the state of Minnesota, I was the operations manager of a nonprofit. So I did a lot of interviewing and looked at a lot of resumes, a lot of hiring people. And in addition to that, there were many times when I would sit there and look at the resume and to myself, did you even read the job description? And we'll kind of get more into some real life examples of the do's and the don'ts. Now, networking. One of the things that's changed in networking in a huge way is the online piece. So if you are a participant in social media, I want you to make sure that your social media is appropriate. Make sure that your pictures are appropriate. Employers now are taking a look at your Facebook. They're also taking a look at LinkedIn. They're being aware of any of the other media formats that are out there, even YouTube, to see what type of person are you, and are you actually the person that you say you are by how you're presenting yourself out in the public. So please make sure that your social media is appropriate. And then in addition to that, we also, what's changed is teleconferencing. So we're really going to break that down too. I wanted to let you know what teleconferencing, we're doing it right now. So if you have never participated in any online format in a real live setting, you're actually doing it right now. Jenny, this looks like a great time for a question.
So, Glory, when the audio broke up earlier, I think you were going over like a report or like a case study. Um, they're wanting to know if you could repeat that little section
Okay, so
on the
let's go
previous slide.
back and see what, oh, I was talking about the Harvard Business Review.
Yes.
So yes, so it wasn't actually a case study, but what Harvard Business Review is recognizing and realizing is that employers are finally taking a second look at us. And I shouldn't call it a second look, they're finally taking a look at us again, because they used to rule us out. They would say, okay, I want to hire a person in their 20s, even though age discrimination is illegal, it happens all the time. They instead will tell you something else, as if they'll say the words like you're overqualified. So I believe that was it, Jennifer.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the second question that came up said, how can I match it my resume if I don't have that experience? Do I just make stuff up?
Oh no. Oh no, that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that. So no, you do not make stuff up. You want your resume to be truthful, but I want you to reach out to us at the Career Force because we're experts at this. And sometimes the skills that you have done in one role can very easily be transferred into a new role. You're just not recognizing it that way. So that's where our expertise comes in, is we can talk to you about, okay, what did you used to do? What do you want to do? And we can help you to get there. Sometimes it can be as easy as getting a certificate in something, or maybe attending a class. But again, we're the experts in that. So reach out to us. You know, Jenny had talked about the follow-up email, and you're also going to get in that follow-up email the Career Force locations. So you're going to know, if you haven't been to Career Force, in a piece of information, you're going to find out where the Career Force located closest to you is at. And we have job counselors on site at every single one of them. Do you have more questions, Jennifer?
And then the last question is, what if you change your resume, however, your LinkedIn is a bit different?
Oh, great question. So what I would do is I would have as much information on LinkedIn as I could. Now, I also want to encourage you to attend our social media LinkedIn class. Don't mean to keep talking about these classes, but I just attended that one about 3 weeks ago and learned more. And I've already attended it in the past, but that class is one that evolves because LinkedIn social media is always evolving. Attend that class, and they're going to give you some more information on how much information you want to put on LinkedIn. But let's say, I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say that on LinkedIn you had it listed as customer service, and in the job description it's asking for customer representative. I want you to then change the LinkedIn to customer representative. Now, it's easy to say, well, Glory, my title at my last job was customer service representative. I was not, now I lost my train of thought. I was not the customer representative. So what I want you to do is to use the words that are coming off that job description and have them on your LinkedIn profile as well. You can always add more. You don't need to necessarily delete stuff because there's plenty of room for you to have all of your skills listed. But I want to encourage you to try to keep them as close together as possible so it makes sense. Many of us were out there at one time applying for many different types of jobs. So before I was hired with the state of Minnesota, my LinkedIn profile had all kinds of different types of skills on there. That's okay. The employer, if they are looking at your LinkedIn profile, they're looking at, are you who you say you are? So that's why you want to make sure that whatever you're putting on your resume is on your LinkedIn as well. The last piece of this and what's changed is you. Now, part of our expertise also when we're meeting with you and doing a one-on-one appointment is that we are talking to you about what have you actually done since you've worked last. It's easy for a lot of us to think, well, boy, I haven't really done a lot other than I've been taking care of my family member who ended up having COVID and I wasn't able to work. Well, that is working. That's being a caregiver. We're just not recognizing it as that. So we can actually put on your resume caregiver, and we could put, from the year 2023 to 2024, whatever the years it was, and then talk about all the skills that are built in there. Being a caregiver, goodness, you're probably setting up appointments, you're probably transporting, you're probably making sure that they're taking their meds, making sure they're doing independent living skills. So do you see what I mean? There's all kinds of skills built in some of the stuff that we do that we're not recognizing as this is actually a skill. Now, I love this next slide. I use this next slide in many, many different applications in my life. One of them is this is similar to a pros and cons list, but with this T-table chart, what I do is literally I take a blank piece of paper and I draw a T down the center of it. Okay. Seriously, I do this. And then the next thing I do is I write down on one side the three different things that the job description's asking for. Then on the opposite side, I write how I qualify. Now I want to talk about this for a little bit. So let's take the first example. It says recruiting team members. So I exceeded all my recruitment goals by attending job fairs and sourcing new applicants from various job boards. I want to also encourage you that if you have numbers or percentages you can put in there, that makes your statement even more powerful. So if I could write, I exceeded all recruitment goals by hiring an additional 5 team members, and as a result, I brought our sales up to, by 20%, or by from $250 a week to $5,000 a week. If you don't know your exact numbers or you don't remember them, use the word approximate. But I always say that you are the director of the story in my head. So when I am looking at your cover letter, which you can take this T table and convert that right to a T cover letter, when I'm looking at your resume and when I'm interviewing you, I can see that you are qualified, that you've done your research, and that I could hire you very easily without having to be convinced on whether or not you are the right person for the job. I want you to ask yourself, if I was in HR, which stands for Human Resources, and they were looking at my resume, could they figure out how old I am? Now, this one is going to be a little bit of painful information here. I'm warning you ahead of time because it's painful for me. Let's say that you are a construction worker and you've been in construction for the last 35 years. You do not put, I've been in construction for the last 35 years. Now, I've had people get very upset and they're like, Glory, seriously, you're telling me that can only go back 10 years? That's exactly what I'm telling you, and 15 years is the max. Now, I want you to realize that if you've been in construction for 35 years, and I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to interview. Just kind of, but sense these things taking that you said work probably around 19, 20 years old on average, and I may not interview you just based off of that. Now, I just think that's wrong. As a matter of fact, it's illegal, but it happens all the time. And so instead of them saying, well, we think you're too old to do this job, they say stuff to you like you're overqualified, or we've decided to go with somebody else. Ask yourself if the skills that you did years ago still apply to this new position. I had a gentleman one time who 25 years ago, he was a truck driver and sending out his resume to many different people, but was never getting any interviews, came to me and said, Gloria, I've applied, I've sent this, the resume out. Nobody's calling me. I'm not hearing anything from anybody. So I took a look at his resume and I said, okay, so you've got here that you were a truck driver over 20 years ago. Are you planning on going back into truck driving? He said, no, I don't ever want to sit in a truck again. I said, well, for starters, we need to take this off. And it was painful for him. I said, is there a reason why you have to have this on your resume? And he said, well, I'm very proud of it. I went to truck driving school. It was a big accomplishment for me, and I'm very proud of it. Well, I can understand that. But if it is portraying like you're going to come work for me until you get a truck driver job, and I am assuming, which that's what we have to do in human resources or whoever the hiring manager is, I'm assuming that truck driving probably pays more than my position. So as soon as you get a truck driving role, you're going to bail on me and go back into truck driving. I remember the person told me, I don't want to drive truck again. I never want to sit in one. So then you need to take that off. So I want to encourage you to use what's called the combination resume instead of a chronological. What the combination resume does is it takes the chronological and the functional resume and combines them both. So I love it. I love it. I still use the combination resume to this day, where it really just expels your skills in regards to when I'm looking at that piece of paper, I can see how talented you are. And down at the bottom is the company name, it's your work history down at the bottom. So it says ABC Supply, Duluth, Minnesota, 2020 to 2024. Just use years. But then when I look up in the center of the page, it's talking all about your skills. So I don't need to know where you learned how to do something. I just need to know that you know how to do it. So it just says your skills instead of where you learned each one and which place of employment. This is a great time for a question, Jennifer.
Okay. So a question came in. What if your best skills applying to the position corresponds with a job you did over 15 years ago?
Mm. So again, boy, I would really like to get really specific on that one because that's a really great question. But if your skills that you acquired over 15 years ago and you weren't using them, I'm not 100% sure that you know how to do it anymore. It depends on now if it's building a house. Obviously, some of the skills have changed in regards to some of our new technology pieces, but it's still hammer and nails most of the time. It just that one, I guess what I'd like for you to do is reach out after the workshop to one of us and we can answer that better because that's kind of I'd like to give you a really good answer that's more case specific.
And then the next question is, other than keywords and SEO, what can you do to get your resume past the ATS system? Is there a specific format / design for the resume?
No, there is not, but what I want you to say when this person is saying ATS, that's called the applicant tracking system. That is actually a computer system that's reading your resume. That's why we talk about taking the words off of the job description and placing them on your resume. The applicant tracking system does not recognize synonyms. Okay, so let's get back to our customer service and customer representative example. If you're calling yourself a customer service and the company's looking for a customer representative, the computer doesn't recognize that you are a customer representative and it kicks you out as if you don't qualify, and a human being never sees your resume. So I want you to make sure that you're reading that job description very carefully and pulling off all of the buzzwords that they're using and making sure that your resume has those words on it. Then you will be able to beat the applicant tracking system. You'll be able to beat all the AI devices that are being used now, and you will be able to get the interview. Jennifer, I think we got time for one more.
Okay. So this same question also applied to another individual as well. But the question is, I was an owner operator for a business 12 years. That is a lot of experience in many areas. How do I take advantage of this on a resume?
So, first off, I appreciate the fact you're owner operator because you are of great value to other employers. Now, you want to make sure that you have on your resume something like this. I am a natural born leader, but I also follow well. You know, a lot of times when we are independent contractors or own our own business, the other employers can look at us like, okay, so you own your own business. Why do you want to come work for me? So I would address that immediately. I call that the elephant in the room, and I would say, I was a business owner for this many years, and I realized the taxation that it takes on me being my own boss, and I would love to have my wisdom come to the table and work for you, and I'll freely share it. And again, you get back to that wisdom that I have, I paid a high price for, but I believe that if I can make you a lot of money, Mr. Employer, I will make some money too. So, and your resume needs to only have the skills listed on there that the employer is looking for. Let me give you a better example. So I'm looking at a resume one time, and the position I'm interviewing for is a thrift store retail position. And the resume that I'm looking at is a guy who can do everything under the sun with a forklift. According to his resume, I mean, he knew how to operate a forklift, lift things up high, lift them down low, use pallet jacks, whatever it took. We didn't own a forklift. Now, take it a step further. When I'm looking at these resumes, I have to narrow it down to only 3 people. So sometimes I would have 50 resumes that would have. The company is not willing to pay me to interview 50 people. So they would tell me, Glory, narrow it down to 3. That's hard to do. Fortunately, industry has changed now where employers are looking for us. And in addition to that, they can't find people to do the job. So that's why we want to come in and show them we are the best person for the job. But how we're going to do it, instead of being the forklift driver and I don't own a forklift, we are going to make sure that your resume is tailored towards what the employer is looking for. So back to my example, poor guy, I never interviewed him because we didn't own a forklift. And I thought to myself, okay, so my retail position probably doesn't pay as good a money as a forklift driver would. And so as soon as he gets that forklift driver option, he's going to bail on me and go to them. Now, maybe the guy is sick of sitting on a forklift. He never wants to be on one again. His resume didn't portray that. So, Mr. Business Owner, I want you just to make sure that you're tailoring your resume towards what the employer is looking for. Also, I want to encourage you to do a mock interview with us before you go and interview. You know, sometimes when we have done an awful lot and I call it jack of all trades. Sometimes we can go in and get hung up on thinking that this is what you're looking for, Mr. Employer, when they're not. So you want to make sure that you are lining up all of your answers at the resume point and at the interview to what the employer is looking for. And I also want you to ask yourself, do I have the competitive skills right now? How about this one? Do I want this job? You know, when you're at the interview, most times one of their questions are, why do you want this job? Matter of fact, when I would interview, we always had that as one of the questions. And do you know that most of the time, I would have to say 98% of the time, people would say for the money. I just need a job. You know, the truth is we all work for money. If we love our job, that's a bonus. But that's not what you say at the interview. Why do you want this job? I want you to do a little bit of research on the company. Goodness, even if you just Google the company's name and spend 2 minutes reading about the company. I would love if you could figure out what their mission statement is. Why do you want this job? Quote their mission statement back to them and say that that lines up with my core values. Now, it's easy to say, well, Glory, what happens if it doesn't? Well, then I want you to ask yourself, why do you want this job? Okay, there are plenty of jobs out there right now, and we are in the most unique situation in history where there are more jobs available than people who are willing to work. So the key is to make sure you've tailored your resume towards that job and that you can go and get the interview. Now, what I find is that after you've been doing job search for a while, you start to get discouraged. And age has nothing to do with this. This has to do with looking for a job is not a fun job. It's difficult. It makes you question everything. Makes you feel like, boy, I'm going to be this way forever. I'm never going to get a job. And that's simply lies. But I want to take it a step further. I would love for you to lift your head up high, throw them shoulders back, and talk to everybody and say, I'm looking for a job. Do you know of anybody that's hiring? I'm looking for a job. Do you know of anybody that's hiring? Another way to overcome this and get back into society, because we need you, is to do some volunteering. Now, I'm not telling you to go volunteer 40 hours a week. Goodness, you need to look for a job. But I'm talking about maybe going and volunteering at your local food shelf, just to give it an hour or 2 hours a week at the most. But here's what would happen. If you would come and volunteer where I was the operations manager, you came and volunteered. We built a good rapport. I always knew I could count on you. I knew you would show up on time. I knew that whatever task I would ask you to do, you didn't argue with me. You did the task with a smile on your face. You got along well with the other people that you were interacting with. I would have business owners come in and make a donation and they would say, Glory, I have a job open. Do you know of anybody that's looking for a job? And I would easily refer you. And 9 times out of 10, you didn't even have to give them a resume because they were going based off of the fact that I referred you. So I'm just saying that you want to be the first person that somebody thinks of when a job does become available. And this could be a job that's never even been posted, but you want to make sure that you're creating those relationships so they think of you first. That's right. Glory said she's looking for a job. I do know of somebody who's looking for a job. That's you're working. And it is still the easiest way to get a job. Now, let's talk a little bit about teleconferencing. I told you earlier that we're doing it right now. But one of the services that we offer too is to do a mock interview, and we can do a virtual mock interview. Boy, many employers are doing virtual interviews more and more and more. Now, I've had people who, one, they don't have the equipment, so know that you can come into our local career force and use our equipment. We have a web camera, we have the microphone. We also have the decent background. We have our lighting is great. The background that I'm sitting in right now, I'm intentionally sit here because the lighting is not that great. It's natural lighting. I have big windows. I feel very blessed about that, but I wouldn't interview here. The reason for it is that sometimes the light gets to be, if the sun's shining the right way, it washes me out. You want to make sure that your background isn't too dark because employers perceive that as that you're hiding something. You want to make sure that your audio is working. You want to know where your camera is. I want to point out that if I'm talking to you this way, that feels completely different than if I'm carrying eye contact with you. Now, you don't need to be staring up into the camera because that's creepy, but you use your eye contact the same as you would when you're talking to somebody. Smile. A lot of times I recommend that people even have a camera, excuse me, not a camera, a mirror in their vicinity so that they will know and remember to smile. You want to portray yourself as being friendly because you are. Make sure that your audio is good. And again, that's another thing that we can test with you before the interview. You want to make sure you have this stuff all set up. And then please, if they call you and say, we want to do a virtual interview, first off, you don't have a computer, you don't have anything to be able to do this virtual interview. I don't want you to tell the employer that. What you say is, yes, I would be happy to. What time would you like me to do the interview at? Pick your time, and then I want you to ask them for a backup phone number in case something were to happen with the virtual interview. Let me tell you, this is a true story. So I had a gentleman come in. He had used our equipment. Everything was working fine. We had tested the audio. We made sure his background was great. We're good to go. Interview starts, and probably about 5 to 6 minutes into the interview, he comes running out of the room, yelling my name, Glory, Glory. The internet went down. Now, the chances of this happening are super rare. Matter of fact, I don't think it's ever happened since. But internet goes down. He's like, what do I do? I said, did you get the backup phone number? Yes, I did. Okay, I said, first off, I want you to take a deep breath. And second off, this is an opportunity. This is not an obstacle. And the reason it's an opportunity is because you have the ability now to show them that you can handle stress situations and handle them with grace. He's like, thank you for saying that, Glory. So he went in, took a deep breath, called the phone number back. They put him on a speakerphone and finished the interview, and he got the job. I believe part of the reason he got that job was because he was able to show them that even though things weren't going the way he had planned, it still worked out well because he handled it great under stress. Jennifer, another great time for a question.
There was a question that came up that said, I am struggling with networking due to the fact that I was fired with no fault of my own. How do you explain that to networking connections?
Oh boy, that's a great question. So first off, don't assume they're going to ask you. A lot of times with our connections, sometimes I don't ask people because I don't want to know. Now, let's say that they do. Say they do ask you. What I want you to say is that if they say, well, what happened? Say, you know what, I'm not for sure what happened other than I was involuntarily separated. And as a result, it has brought me into looking for a new job. So do you know of anybody that's hiring? And if they say involuntarily separated, what does that mean? Well, I was involuntarily separated. I no longer work there. You don't need to go into, I don't want you to use the word I was fired, I was let go. The truth is it's really nobody's business. I had to practice this saying involuntarily separated because it's a mouthful. But the deal is that you're going to find out very quick if that person cares about you or if they're just being curious. Do they care about you or are they just going to be gossiping about you? And then you're the one who's going to take control of that situation. So you can do your networking, but don't go into any details why you were let go. And you're just going to say I was involuntarily separated. And as a result, it brought me here to you today. I thought I would reach out to you and see if you know of anybody that's hiring. When it is no fault of your own, that hurts. But when I'm talking to the employers, I ask them, what's the most important thing to you when you're hiring someone? They always say two things. One is their reputation. Okay, they want to know if you're going to harm their reputation. And if you're going in and talking about the previous employer who let you go due to no fault of your own, and you're saying negative things during that interview to that maybe possible new employer, they're not going to hire you because they're thinking to themselves, goodness, what are you going to say about us if you don't work out here? You do have to realize that we all go through career progression. The way we figure out if we like a job or not is to try it. Um, if we don't stay there very long, that's career progression. We typically leave for one reason or another. Then the second thing when I'm talking to them, so reputation, the second thing that's most important to the employer is, are you going to fit in here? So I want you to go in and present yourself as being kind, friendly, you get along well with others. I've said in interviews before, I'm a natural born leader. I don't have them following either. I will do whatever it takes to get the job done. Most people, what they do is they will even cross their arms and say, oh, that ain't my job, or that's not in my job description. Let her do that. I want to point out to you, what do you care? As long as it's not illegal and you're getting paid, do the job the way the employer wants it done. Now, I always say too that it's important to go in, do the job to the best of your ability. After you've been there 6 months and you see maybe there's a different way that they could save some money and do something different, well, now you've got earned some credibility. So now you can go in and approach your supervisor and say, you know what? I was just curious. I've been doing some thinking about our supply room. and it's very disorganized. And I think a lot of times I'm in there looking for stuff, I can't find it, have you reorder it, and then the next time I go in there, there it is. Um, would you have a problem if I went in and organized it? And here's the plan I was thinking. I'll label everything, give everything a home, and then I'll also create a map. So I'll send that out to all of our employees so that they will know where everything is, and then also where to put it back when they're done using it. So do you see how you've earned your credibility and now I'm going to listen to you? So how do you feel about your last job, and do those feelings show? Let's talk about those skills. What are some of the skills that you've done? Do you even know what they are? If you don't, reach out to us. We will have a conversation, and I can tell you very quickly, I'm going to be able to pick out those skills just by talking with you. Same way the interviewer can do it. What makes you a better candidate today than you were last time? You want to be able to talk about those. The deal is that you want to prove to me that you are the best person for the job. So I want to encourage you to write this down on Post-its and post it all over your house. I am the best person for this job. I am dependable. I am adaptable. I am loved. I am important. I am needed. Those are the types of things you need to be telling yourself instead of the negative that comes so easily to us, especially when you're looking for a job. When you're looking for a job, it's easy for us to second guess ourselves. Um, Goodness, be careful who you're talking to. I was talking to a gentleman recently, and he told me while I'm talking to him over the phone 9 different times how he's too old to work. Now, he's younger than me, and he was not disabled in any way, shape, or form. And I said to him, do you know that you've said to me in one form or another 9 times that you're too old to work? And he's like, what? I have not. And I said, yes, you have. You've said to me, well, back in my day, or for able to do that for my age now, or however he said it 9 different times in a negative, that he's too old to work. So I want you to ask yourself, is that what you're telling yourself? Or even worse, is that what other people are telling you? Well, you're going to have a tough time finding a job now because of your age. Don't listen to those people. The deal is that Mr. or Mrs. Employer is just waiting for you to apply. Apply, come in, interview well. Convince me you're the best person for the job. I don't care how old you are. I need somebody. I need your help. I need your wisdom. You know, there's a gentleman at our local Walmart, and I'm not that great about um, saying for sure how old he is, but I would say he's probably in his 80s, and he's the greeter. So every time I walk into Walmart, I tell you what, he makes me feel so good going there, and just as friendly as can be. And even when I walk out, he makes a point of saying goodbye to me. So I kind of built up just an acquaintance relationship with him. And one day I walked up to him and I told him, I said, you know, I have a personal question that I would like to ask you. If you don't feel comfortable answering this, just tell me no. But I work for the state of Minnesota as a job counselor, and I'd like to ask you something. He said, yeah, fire away. I don't care. What are you going to ask me? I said, are you working this job because you have to or because you want to? He said, I'm working this job because I want to. He said, I got plenty of money. He said, I am sick and tired of sitting at home, taking care of my dog, and not talking with anybody. He said, I got so lonely I could hardly stand it. So he says, I need to get back out and about and rub elbows with people. That's why I'm here. And I told him, I said, you know, I just got to compliment you and tell you, you do such a great job at your job. You always make me feel good for coming into Walmart. Now, my point out of that whole story is that since the pandemic happened, you guys, all of us have realized age has nothing to do with it, but being sitting at home day in, day out, being shelter in place is not cracked up to what we thought it was going to be. In addition to that, we have been spoon fed work to retire, work to retire, work to retire. Well, I'm telling you, if that's what retirement is, I don't want anything to do with it. And there's a lot of people that are saying that, that are seasoned workers. I have people calling me all the time, Glory, I want to go back to work. I can't stand this. I can't stand being at home all the time. It's stressful on relationships, stressful on marriages. So I'm just saying that use that to your advantage. This person who was let go, if it was during the pandemic, There were all kinds of businesses that went out of business. There were all kinds of businesses that had to downsize. Um, I have people that are on unemployment that I deal with on a daily basis. If you were laid off and they say, "Why did you leave your last job?" You just say, "Because I was laid off." That is nothing to be ashamed of. The truth is that it's reality. And if it happened, make sure you're presenting your answers in the best light. And I want to ask you, what are your goals? When you're at the interview, oftentimes they will say to you, "Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?" Or they'll say, "What are your career aspirations?" And do you know what you say? "Well, I'm retired. I'm going to be retired. I'm out of here, man. Just give me a job for the next 2 years and you won't ever see me again." And do you actually think to yourself, that's what the employer wants to hear? Well, I'm here to remind you that that is not what the employer wants to hear. They're going to hire you, they're going to train you, they're going to put all this money into you, hoping you stay with them forever. Now, it's easy to say, "Well, Glory, I am retiring in 2 years. So what are you telling me to lie now?" No, that's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, when you are asked that question at the interview, what are your career aspirations, or where do you see yourself in 3 years? The appropriate answer is, "I see myself working for you, and hopefully I will have gotten a promotion." Now, is that lying? Absolutely not. Here's the truth. I might have plans to do something in 3 to 5 years, but we've lived long enough now to know that just because we plan something doesn't mean it happens. You don't know. Maybe you'll absolutely fall in love with this job and you want to stay there longer. You don't know for sure what your plans are going to be, what our future is going to be. And I want to narrow it down to today. The only thing that we're guaranteed is right now, right here. So for the interview's sake, I want you to say, "I see myself working for you, and hopefully I will have gotten a promotion." Common mistakes. We've kind of covered a little bit of this. Being seen as overqualified, being seen as a forklift driver, and I don't own a forklift. Uh, I want to talk a little bit about this overqualified one here. So I had a gentleman that I was working with, and he was the vice president of a company. And he gave me his resume and he's like, "Glory, I've been sending this out to everybody." He says, "I have done resumes. I've, read resumes. I've interviewed people. I mean, everything. I don't understand why I'm not getting interviews. Everything on my resume is perfect." I said, "Yeah, you know what? Your resume looks really impressive, but I got a question for you. Are you going after vice president roles, CEO, CFO roles?" "No." He said, "I don't want anything to do with leadership anymore." He said, "I'm tired of it. I just want to go and work for somebody else and do the best I can and go home and enjoy my family at the end of the day." And I said, "Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to remove vice president off your resume." And he's like, "What? What?" "But I'm very proud I was vice president." I told him, I said, "Yeah, I would be too. But then if you're that proud and you need to have it presented to you, then frame that resume. It says you're vice president, but remove it on the ones you're sending out to everybody." What happens to us as human beings is that if I'm hiring, let's say for a retail position, and I'm looking at your resume and I'm seeing vice president, well, you weren't even in here for you. I'm not getting a chance to explain it. And I think I must have gotten this resume by mistake. Don't look, you don't want to be perceived as being overqualified. Make sure that your narrative is not negative and recognize your skills. Some of these skills you've been updating and you're not even recognizing them as skills. So let us help you with that. Listing too many accomplishments. We had talked a little bit about this where sometimes we'll put all these accomplishments on there that we're very proud of, but they have nothing to do with the job. Keep them off the resume then. How are you talking? Are you telling me that you're too old for the job? Are you talking about how, well, in my day, we didn't do that? And are you listening? I always say that the good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Are you still behaving like you were when you were in charge? That's why I keep talking about I'm a natural born leader, but I can follow really well too. Make sure that you are stating those. You could even have that on your resume. And then I also believe that we're really recognizing that this losing momentum is a real thing that happens to everyone, regardless of your age. Looking for a job is a job. And boy, I tell you what, sometimes it's like running straight up a hill because it's like, oh man, I got to send out 2 more applications today. This process is enduring. I don't want to do it. Call us. We're experts at giving you an encouraging word. And, sometimes we have that connection. I think it's really, really cool how this works. But even with my colleagues, I'll hear them sometimes, they'll say, I had this job come across my desk this morning. And now you called me. I think you would be a perfect fit for this. Let me tell you and give you the information on it. So, again, reach out to us because I do not want you to sit home and suffer. We need you. We need you in the workforce. We need your wisdom. Come back and help us. And speaking of helping us, Jennifer, I would like for you to put in the state of Minnesota website. So I think it's mn.gov/MMB careers, I believe it is. Come to work with us. Come to work with the state of Minnesota. Um, we've got a lot of positions that are available, and there might be something that you're interested in. And again, I got hired in my 50s, so if I got hired, you can get hired too. And let us coach you through how to do that. I really think that we have touched base on your narrative being negative. If you do have any questions on that, please put it in the chat, but I think that I've talked about that in great detail. Let's talk a little bit about not updating your skills. Now, one of the ways that you can update your skills is get a hold of us and talk to us about the Dislocated Worker Program. So I don't run that program, but just to kind of give you a quick overview, it is a program that is designed to help you if you need that certificate, for instance. Another great example, I think, is that I worked recently with a colleague who was short one class of their bachelor's degree. They didn't qualify for financial aid because it was only one class. So a Dislocated Worker Program helped them to pay for that class. And then at the end of the class, they got their bachelor's degree. So it doesn't pay for you to get a bachelor's degree, but it will pay for a short-term type of education that will help you to get a better job. Another great resource is Coursera. Now, I love Coursera, but I want to throw out a disclaimer. You have to watch with Coursera because there's pop-up boxes that come up all the time that are asking you to join. And the membership fee is $49 a month. But you don't need to do that. Goodness, especially if you don't have a job. But there's a lot of free certificates on there. So you can get a free certificate like in Excel or Microsoft Word, for instance, Google. There's all kinds of different certificates that they offer that you could go on and get those as well and add them to your resume. But again, remember, don't get too hung up at if your company's not looking for it or the job industry is not looking for that specific certificate, then don't go after it. But if they are, and if that's the only thing that's stopping you from getting the job, let us help you to get that certificate so that you're more employable. And Jennifer, it looks to me like we got about 9 minutes left for questions. I'm
Oh
hoping
gosh,
we got some questions.
there are so many questions. Um,
Good.
a lot of them. Okay. So there was one that came in that says, I have a hard time communicating with people. How do I network?
Oh, that's a great one. So I'll tell you what, when we all start networking and communicating, it's hard to do, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. So what I always look at is I take advantage of every opportunity in front of me. So what I mean by that, it used to be called the elevator speech. Like if you got on the elevator, you would say, I'm looking for a job. Do you know of anybody that's hiring? And you got somebody standing there that you know, not a stranger. Okay. Um, I called it the elevator speech. What I want you to do is reach out to us and first have a conversation with a job counselor. Let us build your confidence up a little bit. And then we're going to talk to you more about the people we want you to network with are the people you already know. And then in addition, if you were like to join maybe job club, or if you were to do a couple hours of volunteering a week, it's forcing you to step out of your comfort zone. But the beauty of it is that it's also putting you in front of more people that you can network with. So my best answer for that is that push through. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Okay. And then one of the questions came and asking how they would schedule a session with you, Glory.
Oh, well, if you want to go ahead and put my contact information in the chat, Jennifer, that's fine. I also want to encourage you to go to your local career force too, because they have one of me at every one. So you can do, yep, reach out to whoever's going to help you.
And
That's
then,
part of our job.
do employers expect candidates to be on LinkedIn?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The thing is that if you are on LinkedIn, you want to have a decent profile. Decent profile is, I'm using that word kind of loosely. You're going to find out more what that actually means if you haven't been on LinkedIn, if you attend our workshop on LinkedIn. But also, I always say that if you don't have a profile on LinkedIn, I want to encourage you to get one and don't pay the membership, do it for free. I want to encourage you to get one because it's a great way to portray yourself and to let everybody else know your skills.
Okay, sorry, I'm like looking for your
That's okay.
information and stuff,
Yes.
Glory. Um, uh, wait, um, is there anything wrong with getting business cards made that you can pass out to people
Oh,
with
no.
resume highlights?
I absolutely love that idea. Love, love, love that idea. The only thing, only reservation I have is that just don't spend a whole bunch of money on it. And you know what I found is that sometimes a lot of people get these business cards, they'll order 500 of them, which I think that's might be a little bit too much. I don't know. You know your network group. And then they put them on the top of their dresser and they just sit there and collect dust and they don't ever do anything with them. So no, I think handing out business cards is an excellent idea, provided you use them.
Okay. This is not a someone asked if this is a succession class. This is not a succession class.
No, 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 this is actually Employment Over 50 workshop.
And then, these questions here. Won't they realize your age when you're sitting in front of them? Why be vague and then
Yes.
viewed as dishonest?
Yeah, no, no, no. Here's the deal. Okay, you guys, first off, I've had people comment before in this workshop and they're like, well, Glory, I'm very proud of my age. Well, guess what? So am I. I'm very proud of my age. The deal is that on your resume is a piece of paper. So it's the first introduction of who you are. And as a hiring manager, you want it to be where I want to know more about you. Now, once you walk in for the interview, obviously they're going to realize you're not 20 years old, but now you're a real person. Now you can come in and interview really well and convince me that you're the best person for the job, as opposed to me just looking at a piece of paper saying, oh, no, this person has got to be in their 60s and not even call you in for an interview. So you want to be able to get to the interview. Once you're at the interview, now you're going to convince them you're the best person for the job. Now, let's say that you've been looking for a job for a while and you're like, Eva Glory, I don't know if I am the best person for the job or not. Stop. Don't interview. Reach out to us and let us do a mock interview because you are the best person for the job. If it's a job that your heart jumps, I always say, I use that example, like you go, "Oh, yes, I really want that job." Well, guess what? You're not going to get it if you don't apply. And if you don't have the things that employer's looking for on your resume, you're not going to get the interview. So reach out to us and we would do a mock interview with you before you actually go in. And we're going to remind you of what your skills are and you're going to have enough confidence to go in and get that job.
And then, can we ask more than what we were getting in our old job?
Are they talking wage?
I think like wage and benefits and things like that.
Well, okay. So the answer to that is yes, you can always ask, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it. And I want you to reach out to us because I'm going to coach you on how to ask, even if you're saying, I don't need help with that, Gloria, I know how to do it. Run it by us too, because we're working with the employers all the time. So, um, if you were going to ask for more than their starting wage, for instance, you would then want to also have your experience and the why. Why should I pay you more? And the reason that comes back to Mr. Employer, Mrs. Employer, is that um, I'm going to make more money because of your experience. So you want to be able to really highlight that. So yes, you can ask for more. Now, let me tell you something. there are, and the state of Minnesota is one of them. We're union, and under our contract, you have to start at the base wage. So you can go in and negotiate all you want, but you still start at the base wage. So know that there are some companies that are set up that way.
Okay. And then does Career Force have any partnerships that provide us people on unemployment with free tools like, for instance, the premium LinkedIn membership?
Boy, that's a great question, and I love that. But the answer is no, they don't provide the premium for the LinkedIn. But they provide all kinds of other services. So again, you need to reach out to us because I can refer you then to the different programs that are in under the same umbrella. So in the career forces throughout the state of Minnesota, we work with partners. Many of our partners are right in the same building. And so it's very easy for us to refer you. And every career force has different programs and it's based by counties. So I'm giving you a real blanket answer here, but yes, we do have money that's available to help you. It's just different in every county. So reach out to your local career force and they can fill you in on that.
Okay. This is the last question we're going to ask. I work
Yes.
virtually. What advice and resources do you recommend?
Jennifer, can you say that one more time?
Yes, I work virtually. What advice and resources do you recommend?
For working virtually?
I'm thinking maybe for finding jobs virtually. I think she worked virtually
Oh.
before.
So my favorite resource virtually or online
Or
in the
maybe
whole
for like,
world.
I know. I guess it's a very broad question. I don't know if
Yeah.
you're asking about what you would do in a situation regarding like questions because you work virtually
Well,
and you don't
you know
really.
what? Since we're down to 1 minute, Jennifer, I'm going to guess and I got a good answer.
Okay.
MinnesotaWorks.net. So now I know you guys are signed up on MinnesotaWorks.net. You have to be in order to attend this workshop, but I also want to tell you how we differ from like Indeed, Facebook, LinkedIn, Craigslist. So we verify every job's real, every employer is real, and that they're actively hiring. So you don't have to worry about being scammed on MinnesotaWorks.net. So if you work virtually and you're looking for a different job, check out MinnesotaWorks.net. And thank you for attending this workshop. We are delighted that you are here today. Please check out the state of Minnesota employment options as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out in the working field. So have a
Yes.
wonderful day and blessings.
Yes. Have a wonderful day. Bye. Bye, everyone.